Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central here. It's TGIF, it's Friday, and we are about to walk into the big stories like we've never done before, bringing to you the latest gist. Plus, it's been a roller coaster of political news from one border to the other, especially in Nigeria. Don't worry, my co-anchors are looking at me this morning wondering what I did over the night. But I can tell you it was indeed splendid because fitness, I started and we're ready for, I'm going to miss you guys, by the way, after today's show Friday,
Why?
I don't want to go. I wish we could do Saturday and Sunday,
Oh, yeah. I feel that way too sometimes. But you can come back tomorrow,
I am not going to miss you. I want to go.
Oh, my goodness. You're welcome to Breakfast Central, guys. My name is Benga Borough. This is the best place to start your day. And if you're tuned in to News Central TV, you know that you've started your day right. Let me pass on the mic to my
I received the mic.
I pass it on to you, Paripasu.
What did they speak?
I want to use legal terms.
Legal terms.
Sometimes I feel bad. What did you study? Mass com. I was watching a movie, a Yoruba movie back in those days. So our mobiles came to the house and they started beating everybody. They said, what did you study? Then my elder brother was there. He studied physical and kinetic education in University of Ibadan. In the movie, somebody studied physical and kinetic education. The armor was advising him that, hey, see better custom. I said sorry. I really felt sorry for my big bro that time, but my big bro is doing well now, so we thank God.
That's life. He took the lemonade.
Imagine I'm not advising you.
Inside film, wow. It's not even in real life.
So that's why sometimes, MassCom, people look at MassCom as ordinary, just going there. And in Nigeria, MassCom graduates are mostly females. So they look at it, and sometimes I get jealous that you studied law. You get to use Latin magazines and legal terms like paripasu. So once in a while, allow me to be using them.
Please. No, I'll be teaching you legal magazines once in a while.
Is ordinary citizen like me.
I will teach you as well. You layman.
It's okay. It's all right.
Speaking about legal terms, today is a very important day, and I'm very excited to be starting this day because a very prominent legal luminary turns 40 today. I'm talking about Darlington Ofekeze, who happens to be one of my best friends in this world. So I'm starting this show with so much excitement and wishing my friend a happy 40th birthday. Barrister Darlington Ofekeze. We lawyers, there's a certain, I don't want to call it arrogance or pride. People think it's arrogance or pride, but we know who we are. We work with the knowledge of who we are. And when you now try to, I understand your feelings of low self-esteem because
you're saying it's on a MassCom set. On the media set. Are you in the law court? If you're in the court, then you can brag. You can washing me on our.
Sorry.
Yes,
it's good. I'm Olive Emodi, and you're welcome to Breakfast Central. This is Wake Up Conversations. The way that we kickstart the show, we start on a very light mood, and we look for some of the stories that have been trending in the past 24 hours. Thank you so much, Benny, for that coffee you are bringing. We look for I don't know, please bring it. And let's not get into the stories today as we count down to the 2027 election. Okay, great. Thank you, Benny. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let the coffee go round.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great job, Benny. Great job. All right. This is how I'm standing on existing protocols right now. I'm fired up.
Yes. Very excited.
Let's talk about the
APC.
Yes, the summit. That's where we start from. Wonderful summit yesterday. I think the funniest part for me in that summit is the part where the Senate president said that when they were going into this the summit, that a Labour Party senator was begging him, please, can I follow you into this summit, please? Let me just attend. I beg you. I don't know, the way he said it, I couldn't help but laugh.
I hope we have that.
It's somewhere. We just have to ensure that we, Yes,
it would be nice.
And then he said, at some point, he said the senator waited because, everybody was like, who are you? So rumors were going around social media that could it be Senator, allegedly
How many Labour parties?
You know, IK, you should know who that is, the initials. Could it be
a female senator?
a female senator?
Only one female senator.
Who was waiting closely to say, please,
I would think it's the other.
That's what they said.
I would think
we
it's
don't know, you know, and it was a good one in terms of, you know, it brought about conversations online that I saw, and I couldn't help but laugh my heart out. But the summit was a talk of town. The president also made a very strong comment that got Nigerians talking as well. He talked about the one-party state, how it's good for democracy. He also talked about the EFCC, how they were able to seize, you know, the number of houses, and he said, one man. Okay, if you understand the rift between the current president and the embattled CBN governor, former CBN governor, thanks for adding the former, you'll understand why the president had said that, one man. I don't know if I'm to explain it on the show, but I'm sure our viewers will understand it, because
you can read between the lines,
you can read between the lines, because if you go back to 2023 during the elections, you remember what had happened when the president was campaigning, and the Naira swap, the policies that kept changing, somersaulting policies, you know,
roadblocks,
exactly,
roadblocks,
and that's why he said.
But you see people that are saying that one, and it's him that said that the reason for the Naira redesign, according to the explanation that was given, was because they said they needed to get the monies back into the commercial vault of the bank. You know, and what he had
mop up excess Naira in circulation.
Yes, and it had been a long time since we had redesigned our Naira. But yeah,
was it really a redesigning? And do you know the amount of business people lost? People died as a result of that.
And you know the funny thing is, when that happened,
people were queuing in front
I
of
remember
banks.
bringing up conversations with some financial experts, asking them, have we learned what we learned in the 1980s when this was done in President Buhari's time? And it was a flop, and people were, the reports of how it happened at that time, people sitting outside the banks unable to get access to cash, and we're asking, have we learned our lesson? But they said they had learned their lesson.
And it was a recoloration of the Naira. It wasn't, they didn't redesign anything.
You know,
do you know, I still like the older currency.
And we're still using it concurrently.
This is this is one of the countries in the world where we're using two different types of money. Two different types of, you have
two different currencies.
Like
types of the same
values,
but different. 1,000 Naira notes, new 1,000.
I don't get it, and it's been on since the president, you know, got into power in 2023. Up until now, there has been no move to change or stop it.
The problem now
it would disrupt
the economy. Part of why they're doing it, why they did it at that time, was because they're trying to inch closer to the moving and making Nigeria into a cashless economy.
Are you sure?
Are we really ready to be a cashless economy, right? Your internet is not working. You want to do cashless economy, but people don't even have data. The ones that they have, they are jumping from one data to the other data. The data is behaving like CBEX. You know, so the internet is behaving like CBEX. We don't have stable internet connection. People don't have access to constant electricity. How do you really want them to move about cashless? In the UK, for example, it's great. All you just need to do is tap and pay. Just put your phone, you tap, and you're good to go.
Contactless.
It's contactless.
Olive.
But you have to put in cultural perspective into this. People might not be ready to adopt contactless, because people will now do devices that if I near you, all your money will enter.
There'll be fights everywhere. Let me say it like they say it in Lagos. There'll be fights everywhere.
I think
there are also smart fridges in other climes that if your egg supply is reducing or your milk, or you run out of milk, they will make an automatic order for you. I'm serious. I am serious.
Look, tone it down. You are off your mind.
No,
I know I joke a lot.
No, I'm not saying he's joking. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm saying you are in Nigeria. Calm down.
I see. Because this
is where you are, Benga.
We will get there. We're just not yet.
We'll get there.
We will.
So you want your fridge to be ordering for you?
Does the fridge know if I'm trying to stay away from it? The fridge know.
Then you would use AI to know that your egg is running down.
Does it know if I'm trying to change my dietary supplement, my diet?
You input it.
Well, back to the APC convention.
APC, please.
Summit, I beg your pardon. It was mentioned there that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been declared as the sole, candidate for the elections come 2027. Yes. it was said that the sole candidate for 2027. But let's take a listen. Let's watch the videos and let's see what happened.
I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the chairman of Progressive Governors Forum, the governor of Imo State, His Excellency Hope Ozodinma, that this August gathering pass a vote of confidence on our able and amiable President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as a sole candidate of APC come 2027 general election. I so second.
Today is a great day. Evaluating the scorecard and reviewing how far we moved within 2 years of this mandate. It is a great joy for me to listen to the team, listen to the party. I just need to tell those ones, saying one party system is no good. It's one party ruling and driving the aspiration of Nigerians. Where do they start? You don't blame a people bailing out of a sinking ship when they have no life jacket.
The political sagacity of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in view of the fact that despite very difficult times, he has been able to set Nigeria on a path of growth, confirmed by the International Monetary Fund. In view of the fact that Nigerians are grassroots people are very excited, in view of the fact that even the members of the National Assembly and senators said they have never had it this good, the leadership of the House of Reps should join me. I want all the members of the National Assembly of the APC extraction to stand up wherever they are. I want the civil senator to stand up where they are. And you will echo what I'm going to say. Those who love you will also join. I want to move, and let it be moved, that not only will President Bola Ahmed Tinubu be a sole candidate for the presidency in 2027, but he will also be a sole candidate for the whole Nigerian population, because all other political parties have been torn into shreds. I went to my state and I saw the umbrella at the PDP. It has over 100 rows. And so very soon you will hear. I'm not the one to break the news, but I know the national chairman has already broken the news that everything in the South-South has collapsed for you. And that is the same thing that is happening in the nation.
Okay, there's politicking and there's exaggeration. So I'm sure Nigerians would pick out what they can deduce from the speech from the Senate President and the principal members of the National Assembly. I mean, they're members of his party, so they're expected to, praise him and tell him he's done well and also endorse him. But Senator Akpabio is a member of the APC. He's allowed to speak for the APC.
This is politics, exactly.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's an APC
ahead to
summit.
say that, in fact, you might be the sole candidate for the entire country.
He said you will. He's
yes, because the other political parties.
The umbrella has plenty holes.
You went to Akpabio and there were over 100 holes in their umbrella. And these things are happening. I mean, the governor of Akpabio, I believe,
yes,
has given the marching order. He has not marched yet. So let the foot soldiers move, pave way, then he will move. We saw this coming. But
no, it's not surprising me. Definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, when all the APC people can say it's an APC summit, I don't think that anybody expected.
But I don't know who that Labour Party senator.
Will come there to come.
Why was he peeping from outside? He wanted to enter.
Investigative journalism.
No, they say he was begging to join.
Senator Akpabio said one Labour Party.
You know what I like? This is the part of politics. Sorry to put. This is the part of politics that gets me You know, it's so funny. I mean, just like you watch the U.S. Presidential election debates and online going towards the elections itself. I know Trump was a bit too overboard. His jabs were too hard and so on. So you always expect politicians to, you know, talk this way. But then again, that's just what I wanted to say. It's part of politicking, so it's not surprising when you hear politicians talk about how somebody followed them and was begging, please, let me just end. Let me just follow you.
Let me see what's happening in that kingdom.
Let me join you people, please. You know?
But you know, we went from the APC summit. Again, like I was saying earlier, it's an APC convention. You don't expect that they'll come there and praise the People's Democratic Party or the Labour Party. It's their party. And in politics, one of the major tactics that is used is just like in wrestling. You make a lot of mouths to intimidate your opponent and make your opponent feel like you totally defeated them. Even you don't know how the game is going to turn. It's a mental thing. You come, people come so close. You put your heads together. You tell them, we're wrestling. You will defeat them. They say the vilest things before the fight. Sometimes the people that talk the most are
the ones that receive.
So it's politics. I'm not surprised about that. However,
the use of language. Stop qualifying all Nigerians.
No, they have a right. It's politics. They have a right to say whatever they want to say. So Nigerians will now be the ones to say what they want to say. Nigerians, the good thing is we're in a democracy that so far that allows you to be able to say what you want to say to a certain extent, be able to speak the truth
at the ballot box.
Exactly. The 29th of May is another opportunity to access the 2 years of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We'll be doing that here on the show, but I'm sure that Nigerians have already started to do that, regardless of what the APC says. It is the reality of the Nigerians that will determine. I can't set an exam, write the exam, and mark the scores for myself. They're different people. There's the invigilator and they're the students for a reason. In this case, government officials, we have employed the government officials. We have employed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to serve the citizens of Nigeria. And the report sheet will soon be marked. And the Nigerian citizens will be the ones to mark the report sheet. But congratulations on the APC, to the APC on the successful summit. And I'm sure that in the coming weeks, there'll be more defections to the APC. Oh,
yeah, the president said so. He said many will come. And then he said, like what he said, there's freedom. When people were talking about one party, he said there's freedom of speech. In other words, there's freedom for you to associate and so on. And then someone on social media said, oh, really? The president understands that there's freedom? Oh, wow. So what happened to those who decide to gather in a place and protest and say, oh, they also have the freedom to equally associate to do what they have to do? But whichever way, it was good to behold and see the APC summit. Most importantly, as journalists, I mean, we just watch. We don't judge. We listen, we don't judge. And we're also able to pick, you know, the pointers. And the pointers we've mentioned this morning, if you just tuned in, well, you've missed out on some of the pointers. But keep watching because we do have a report or reports from our correspondents who covered the entire APC summit. And hopefully we'll share that with you in due course. Another big story, Senator Natasha,
has been taken to court by the federal government, and they have given reasons why they've taken her to court. Talk about how basically it links back to the sexual allegations that she's made on national television, and saying that she made those statements knowing the potential damage that it will cause on the persons whose names were mentioned in the report. Of course, recall that Senator Natasha Akpabio went on national TV alleging that the Senate president, making allegations of sexual assault from the Senate president, and even sort of alleging that the reason why her seat was being changed or her voice was being silenced was because of sexual advances made to her and how she's rejected the sexual advances. And this really caused mixed reactions. So today, if you go on social media, there are people who will still be there tearing her apart, and there are those who are there speaking up for her. Very recently, a certain Sarah Duru was brought into the conversation as well because of the statements she made on the 1st of May in the live stream, where she made a lot of strong allegations. She's speaking up against manipulation of, weaponization of sexual harassment, and she made a lot of allegations against Senator Natasha Akpabio, and Senator Natasha has come out to discount these allegations. However, there's another mix to the story. So a certain Obinna alleged that, you know, the lady, the Esther Duru, in a way influenced, Sarah Duru rather, influenced or invited him to influence the audio recordings, and now there are reports that Obinna has been picked up. But this is a conversation that we'll delve into much later this morning. It just keeps getting longer and longer. I don't know when we're going to see the end of it, or we're going to see a logical end to the story. But there have been calls on social media, we've seen hashtags free Obinna. We'll delve more into the story later when we look at the meat of what the issue is, what the next steps are, and how this might impact the political career of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. The one thing that you would not be able to argue with is that the woman is a fearless fighter. She's been able to stand regardless of all the stones that have been thrown at her. But persons like Larry Olayinka, who's the spokesperson for the Minister of the FCT, has come out, he's put out a tweet saying that he's very happy that the federal government has taken her to court, as this will afford her the opportunity to present the evidence that she says she has against the Senate president. And he said that he doesn't want to hear that something has happened to the evidence, or that the evidence has gotten missing. And if you look at that tweet as well, you see some other reactions.
It would be nice for him to face his primary assignments.
Well, at the end of the day, he's still a Nigerian, and he'll be able to make comments on any of these stories. But I see where you're coming from completely.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Let's move on to other stories. And in the 10th Assembly, I'm sure a lot of you have noticed that the Senate President is quite a controversial figure. Not all of his remaining 108 colleagues agree with him on certain issues, and this thing's bound to happen given the nature of debates and emotions to spill over and politicking. And yesterday this came to a head. Senator Osita and the Senate President had a bit of misunderstanding of Southeast projects now. Let's take a listen.
When will Southeast even have lion's share in any particular project? The Southeast cannot continually to be treated the way Nigeria is treating the Southeast. Ivo Dam was last funded about 12 years ago. And here, a zone is allocated 66 billion, and the entire Southeast at zero. What kind of omission is that? When will Southeast even have lion's share in any particular project? The Southeast cannot continually to be treated the way Nigeria is treating the Southeast. Ivo Dam was last funded about 12 years ago. And here, a zone is allocated 66 billion, and the entire Southeast at zero. What kind of omission is that?
Very sad situation. If what Senator Osita has said is in any way true, then I think it's high time that members of the Senate sit down and have a complete review. Because you cannot continue talking about the Senate and then the Southeast always has a case of marginalization. And that's exactly what he has highlighted again, that if projects are getting over 66 billion naira, you know, Bringa, sometimes when we hear these monies that are being, you know, bandied or mentioned on air, sometimes you try and see if these monies actually show in terms of what is being done at different states or different levels, at different wards, you name it.
The agitation for secession in the Southeast, you would expect the government to even be on an overdrive. I know they've created the Southeast Development Commission, but you need to, I mean, this sort of omission is just ridiculous. You need to carry everybody along. Every geographical corner of Nigeria needs to have a sense of belonging, that they are part of this federation and they're not an afterthought. Mr. President was in Anambra the other day to commission a few projects.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it goes beyond just photo ops and visits. You need to show the people that, look, you're part of the federation, and like what the senator mentioned, the distinguished senator in the Senate, Osita, mentioned, is quite sad. They need to look into it and do something. Let the development go round. Let every corner of the country feel a sense of belonging.
It's very sad, but like you said, if it's anything to go by in terms of it being fact, then we do understand that the Senate needs to actually look into it. I mean, we cannot keep every time we come on air, when we talk about, issues regarding the Senate, at some point you would hear that the Southeast is marginalized, the Southeast is not enjoying the dividends of this.
Federal projects are
Southeast,
like the rail.
Exactly.
Like the standard gauge rails, they've not been extended to the Southeast.
Exactly. So these are the conversations. But then again, we have many more to talk about today here on Breakfast Central. Let's also inform you that you can be part of the show on a Friday. The phone lines will be opened very early. Make sure you join in. Start calling as soon as you see the phone lines on your screen, and we will take your calls to hear your comments. It's been Monday through to Friday. Today happens to be the final day on Breakfast Central, especially for this week. But let's bring to you our top stories for today here on Breakfast Central. Today on Breakfast Central, our top stories. President Tinubu sent 1.48 trillion naira River State budget to National Assembly. Reactions have trailed that one. Federal government sues Senator Akpabio over alleged criminal defamation. We'll touch on this story as we progress. Labour Party factional chairman Callistus Okafor resigns. He says Obi cannot do it. Zero allocation to Southeast sparks dispute in Senate. We have that story as well. And don't forget, you can also call in to be part of Breakfast Central on the front pages of the newspapers. Stay with us.
Fresh concerns over equitable distribution of federal projects have emerged in the Senate as lawmakers from the Southeast raise alarm over their exclusion from the irrigation component of the 3.2 trillion naira Renewed Hope Infrastructure Development Fund. The exclusion of the Anambra Imo River Basin Authority, which serves the Southeast region, sparked debate on regional fairness and developmental priorities. Our correspondent reports from the National Assembly.
A motion raised by Senator Kenneth Eze of Ebonyi Central set the tone for a heated plenary session on Thursday. He questioned why, of the 380 billion naira earmarked for irrigation projects across Nigeria, the Southeast remains the only region excluded from implementation due to the omission of the Anambra Imo River Basin Authority.
380 billion was earmarked specifically for irrigation development projects. Observe that although the intention of the project is national, the actual implementation plan are designed excluded Anambra Imo River Basin Development Authority, which is the only river basin authority serving the entire Southeast.
The motion quickly garnered support from other senators who decried the marginalization of the Southeast, as well as other regions.
When will Southeast even have lion's share in any particular project? The Southeast cannot continually to be treated the way Nigeria is treating the Southeast. Ivo Dam was last funded about 12 years ago, and here a zone is allocated 66 billion, and the entire Southeast at zero. What kind of omission is that?
That oversight should be corrected. But at the same time, Mr. President, if you look at number 8, you have North Central and Northwest, Mr. President, with a meager 24 billion.
Southeast got
while a combined something of Adeja and Jumare agency has 66. I just want to plead that in making the adjustment, the case for North Central should be adjusted to be in pari passu with the other zones.
It is not wise in allocating resources to sometimes over-allocate to one zone at the expense of other zones.
Presiding officer Barau Jibrin called for calm, suggesting the omission may have been an honest oversight.
Let us not over-debate this matter. We have just consulted. We'll, go ahead and meet the relevant office to sort out this matter. What we need is result.
After deliberations, the Senate resolved to stand down the motion and pursue an amicable resolution with the executive arm. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Brian.
So there you have it, the full package there explaining what went down and what happened after the sitting senator had highlighted that the Southeast was indeed not getting anything, especially from the allocations and the budget. And the fact that also another senator or more senators had stood up to also highlight the very importance of not allocating or allocating to a particular region is starting to look very problematic.
What is equity, fairness, and justice? That's it.
Yeah.
So everyone will feel a sense of belonging and as a part of the federation. And we won't have this sort of debates on, or this person got this and I got this. And yeah.
And we must commend as well the House for highlighting this and standing as one. And then at the end of the day, you also have a clear response that it would be looked into. But we're happy that we do have our man who's on ground, and he will definitely follow up and let us know what the updates are, especially when they do convene again to look at the possibilities of ensuring that the adjustments happen. And it also highlights one key fact, Benga, that Nigerians should be very interested in this type of story or report, because whatever decisions are being made there, it would heavily impact on every single state and society and local government area. You mention it. Every single, it trickles from the top down to the bottom. So whatever decisions are being made there, it will also, give you the interest on how development is done or how it happens.
How governance works.
Yeah, how it works. But if you just look at this and say, yeah, it's one of the things they do, let them just, you might be in for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. I think you would have said it all. We'll continue to follow up with this story. Let's now move to our next story. We will be bringing you updates in Rivers State to let you know what exactly is happening in Rivers State. And we'll have a lawyer and legal practitioner joining us to talk some more about this story. And now, we'll be bringing you updates as well, but we do have reports that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has submitted the 2025 Rivers State budget, establishing 1.481 trillion naira to the National Assembly for approval, a move that has triggered sharp reactions, with critics calling it unconstitutional and a dangerous precedent for Nigeria's federal system. The controversy stems from Tinubu's March 18, 2025 declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, effectively suspending the democratic governance in the state.
Well, now, instead of the Rivers State House of Assembly handling the budget, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has bypassed them and sent it directly to the Senate and House of Representatives. The backlash has been swift. The Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, HURIWA, has condemned President Tinubu's action, calling it a mini coup. The South-South Reawakening Group, SSRG, has also slammed the move, describing it as rascality and urging the Senate to reject the budget. Meanwhile, the leadership of the National Assembly, leadership led by the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, has defended the decision, arguing that it is necessary to ensure governance continuity in Rivers State.
Now, joining us for this discussion is Sobe Eli, legal practitioner and public affairs analyst. Warm welcome to you, Mr. Ele, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. My name is Eli.
Eli.
Sobe Eli.
Yes.
All right, welcome.
Thanks for.
Yes. Now, what do you make of this decision by the federal government to send the budget of Rivers State to the National Assembly? Is it federal overreach or necessary intervention? Is President Tinubu's move justified, or is it a mini coup, as some have described it?
Well, I would, for the purpose of this conversation, limit myself to material facts. Bear in mind that the entire issue about the declaration of emergency rule is being contested in court by a lot of facts, a lot of suits. Just yesterday, we heard that the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Saul, had ordered that all of the actions against the emergency rule sitting in the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt Division be moved to the Abuja Division. So, to the extent that people are challenging the constitutionality or otherwise of the emergency rule in court, I'll be mindful not to make statements there to perpetrate otherwise. But as you recall in the intro, on March 18 this year, the president declared the emergency rule over Rivers State and appointed a retired naval admiral, Ibaki Ete, to be administrator of the states, pursuant to the powers of the president under Section 305 of the Constitution. So that's what we have at the moment. And at the moment, you also recall that the Supreme Court had, before that time, nullified the judgment delivered over the crisis in River State, and nullified the budget that was presented to the House of Assembly by the governor of the state, and now in suspension, SARS, Minalai, Joseph Obura. So as it stands, you want to say that the administrator is sitting on a zero budget system. So there have been hue and cry for the governor to return by citizens of the state across the political divide of sending voices for the governor. But the truth of the matter is that until the president calls for the emergency rule, until the court decides otherwise in the matters that are before the court, the administrator is here and he has to work on the budget. Now, recall also under our constitution, Section 81 gives the president the power to lay budgets for the National Assembly, both House of National Assembly, Senate and House of Reps, for that federal budgets, Section 81. But again, the power to take over the function of the House of Assembly of the state, where it is unable to sit, is inherent in the National Assembly under our constitution. So now that the House of Assembly too was suspended with the governor in the proclamation of emergency rule in the River State, it goes without saying that the president has no other place to lay the budget but before the same National Assembly. So I think that by and large, these are the issues that we have to deal with as facts. Like I said, the other controversies about whether or not it is right, constitutional or not, for the purpose of the argument, may not be convenient for me as a lawyer, but the matters are already sub judice.
Okay. Also, just to talk about the role, seeing as we currently do not have a State House of Assembly that's functional in Rivers State, what should typically be what body should be the lawmaking body in Rivers State? Is the National Assembly empowered to step in, since the House of Assembly, the State House of Assembly, has also been temporarily suspended?
Of course, it's National Assembly, yes. Where the Assembly in circumstances like this, even without the president making a proclamation, assuming without considering that while the crisis was still on, they are unable to sit, and the Assembly can invoke its powers and take over the functions. They can do everything, including passing budgets, approving appointments, and all that. The only power you cannot exercise under Constitution for House Assembly of the state is to impeach a governor of a state. That's the only power that the House Assembly cannot exercise in circumstances where it takes over the functions, duties, powers of the House Assembly of the state created under Section 9, the 1999 Constitution. So yes, at the moment, in the absence of the House Assembly, which has been suspended with the governor and the deputy governor, the National Assembly is the only viable locale under the Constitution to present the budget of River State.
All right, there are worries that this implication is going to have a far-reaching effect. Does the president's action, doesn't it undermine Nigeria's federal structure and the autonomy of states? And I'd also like you to touch on the fact that many are still wondering how the sole administrator is accountable when it comes to spending monies that belong to the state. Yes, we do know that the case is in court. That's the case of the legality of having him as a sole administrator. That's in court. But the aspect of his operation as the sole administrator of the state, and also spending in terms of allocation and so on, how can he be held accountable in terms of the law?
Well, the National Assembly, you recall, has the power oversight over the federal government. So where the federal government are taken over the power of administering river states, the National Assembly will exercise the same functional oversight over the same states. So in terms of expenditure from this budget, again, the National Assembly has set up committees, you recall, on river states and emergency rule. So those committees will now exercise the power oversight for both chambers of the National Assembly. And as time will allow, sometimes the House plenary might discuss river state. So that question about oversighting, monitoring what happens to the budget is taken care of, vis-a-vis the fact that they already exercising the functions and set of committees to oversee river state. So, but as to whether or not this is an encroachment to the space of states, of the mining states, I would hazard an argument even though I've said that because the matters are sub judice, I've reminded not to discuss propriety or the price of the takeover. But however, the Constitution guarantees for democratically elected administrations. Remember, if you go to Section 1, sub 1, I think, or thereabouts of the Constitution, it provides for only the means to administer the federation or any part thereof shall be as prescribed by this Constitution. And in other words, it does not for any moment envisage that a democratic can be suspended. You call also that under President Godswill Akpabio, who had crisis in the Northeast, so much that they have to declare martial rule in 3 states, I think Yobe, Borno, and the Adamawa states. The governors were left in office, while even the House of Assembly were left in office, while the martial rule continued until it was called off. However, in the wisdom of the president in River State, in the case of River State, what we saw was a sweeping takeover. And like I said, the matters are sub judice, so let's allow the courts to handle that until they make a determination of those cases. We may not be able to make statements as to whether or not the president was right or wrong.
Okay, I'm about to ask you another court-related question, but this won't be sub judice. I would like to know the implications, but let me go straight to my question. As we speak, the PDP Governors Forum has taken the federal government to court over the declaration of a state of emergency in River State. We're not trying to preempt the outcome, but either way, what will be the implication of the judgment on Nigeria's democracy? Would it have any effect on the ongoing situation in River State?
I'll tell you something. Sometimes I'm an advocate for judicial activism. I believe that our laws should be tested. We run a system of 3 parts. There's the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. I believe that all the 3 arms, all the 3 parts of government should function. So when the legislature made a law and the executive has executed the law, the judiciary should be able to interpret the laws. So I do not find anything wrong with what's happening in courts. The president has acted on the provision of the Constitution as Section 305. That's a creation of parliament, as it were. Now, the judge is called upon to test the question whether or not the president was wrong. So in terms of implications, whenever the courts come up with an analysis, if the president has not called off, and remember the proclamation for Mexico was 6 months. So if the president has not called it off, 6 months lapses, and they say, Mr. President, you're wrong, that is it. The court will have simply interpreted the Constitution the way it is according to its powers under Section 6. The courts have judicial powers of the Federation. So I think that for purposes of growing our democracy and enriching our jurisprudence, it's important that actions of government, of course, that the Constitution have declared that every institution, person authority, including the president, is subject to this Constitution. So all of the actions of the National Assembly and that can't be vetted by the courts, which have the judicial powers of the Federation. So whatever they come as verdicts with, to make determination of the issues laid before them by the parties, not only the PDP Governors Forum. I think for River State, there are some groups and there are some individuals who have filed actions, like I mentioned to you. Yesterday, one of the parties was in court and got the news that the president, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Sowell, had invoked another of the Federal High Court under civil procedure rules to move all the matters concerning martial rule filed in Port Harcourt, River State, to Abuja. And so it matters to continue from that point. What was the reason? We didn't know. Maybe as time goes on, we'll know. But we understand that the Attorney General's name was mentioned, and I don't know whether he was the one that asked the CJM Federal Court to invoke that power. But I'm not the litigant in the matter, so we're following closely. But I have no problem whatsoever with people, citizens exercising their powers or their constitutional rights to challenge actions of government. Remember, it's a democracy, so government must be held accountable. So if people are in court challenging actions of government, they are valid in order, and the courts must have the courage to speak to the facts, speak to the law, and so can move forward.
All right, let's move away from the legality or illegality of these actions. Like you said, they've been in court. But there are those who believe that it's beyond it being a constitutional necessity, but it's a political tool, this intervention and this budget presentation. And I want to get your thoughts on that.
I don't think so. Remember, I said that the Supreme Court have nullified the budget that was passed for 2025 by the governor of Rivers State. That's a fact. I'm sure you're aware of that fact. So if the president appointed an administrator who is working in place of the governor, and if the same National Assembly had approved that emergency declaration of the president, which was gazetted, are taken over the function as Assembly of the state, it's important that the state must be funded. Recall that we have institutions there are schools, there are hospitals, there are security issues, and the business of governance must go on. So if there's no budget, how would they fund it? So beyond the political rhetoric, people should understand that the reality before us is that emergency rule in the River State since March 18, and until it is called off or nullified by the courts. That's what we have as a reality before us. And so the government cannot operate in vacuum. There must be budgeting and there must be expenditure. So what the president has done is pursuant to, I don't see the propriety of bringing the politics of the argument to it now, particularly because remember that the government has bills to pay. It will be unheard of that an intervention was made by the federal government to stabilize Rivers State from the cantankerous politics we have been engulfed in the last nearly 2 years now, and that will now multiply unrest by not having government pay salaries, run hospitals, service security agencies, and all of those, and then all the projects that we're having initiated by the government of South-South or inherited by him from previous governments are grounded. So government is run on money, and you cannot appropriate, so they cannot spend government funds without appropriation. Remember, I said the Supreme Court have nullified the budget passed by the Assembly for the governor for 2025. So the administrator cannot operate without a budget. So within the context of this argument, I think it's safe to say that the National Assembly is now having the ball in our court to pass a budget for the state that was sent to it by the president, and then of course go further to do her proper oversight duties. But as first of all, let's say it. We may not be comfortable, a lot of people are not comfortable, I am not so comfortable, and this is my personal opinion, that we'll have the constitution suspended. But we're keenly watching how this pans out. Expenditures for Rivers State should be for Rivers people, and that doesn't mean that outsiders are excluded from doing business here. But like every other state in the federation, you just played the clip now before the program began. There were allocations that were being debated in the National Assembly over the some objections raised by senators from the Southeast over the allocation to the Southeast. These are the issues. We're in a federation where the component units have interest to protect, and once the interests are under some kind of threat of erosion, people are bound to raise eyebrows. So in the case of Rivers State, it's not different. People are asking for stability to return, so we have a proper state in our hands. We can hold our people accountable. But in the meantime, until that happens, the administrator must be held accountable and be seen to be held accountable by the National Assembly. So it does not go to support the scripts that is out there in the streets that this is some kind of state capture or hijack of the government of Rivers State as worked by the federal government. There must be accountability, and National Assembly now has a function to do that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning concerning this very interesting, and we could say very, very interesting story once again. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. HURIWA Eli, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, as the story continues to unfold, we'll wait to see the response from the National Assembly. There are talks if the National Assembly will, of course, as usual, stamp and approve, or there would be, a little slack and a little time wasting to, in order, review what the budget would be used for. And how this budget would be spent is also another conversation. I was at Rivers State, and part of the conversations that was raised, especially during the town hall, was how are the people's, in quotes, monies being spent and allocated? Who is going to oversee the sole administrator? Constitutionally, it's been said that the National Assembly would step in and sit down. And we do recall that a committee was also set up to ensure that they follow through with every single thing. But someone also raised a question. Since that committee was set up, we have not seen where the sole administrator has met with the committee in terms of meeting with them frequently to make a presentation and say this is what we've done. Yes, I mean, they said frequently. They said frequently. Do recall that before they met once, they had initially invited him. He didn't show up, and then they invited him again and he showed up. But regardless of everything, I like the fact that the Constitution is still key, and just like our guest has said, these issues are in court. Hopefully, everything will be straightened, and hopefully, River State can get back to where it was, where it started, where it, everything started from the beginning, where it's peaceful. The governor is back on his seat because he's duly elected, and then the people of River State can enjoy the dividends of democracy.
When the National Assembly approves this budget and the governor completes the suspension and returns to office, if the budget doesn't tally with his own personal aspirations and his developmental plans for the people of River State, what happens? Would he go outside that budget? I mean, these are questions that are begging for answers. But I guess when we get there, we will cross the bridge one step at a time.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we're going to do. Anyway, let's bring to you a quick recap of what we've talked about and then tell you what's coming up next for the next hour. Coming up next for the next hour.
The Chief of Army Staff calls for enhanced interagency cooperation.
Federal government sues Senator Akpabio, and we'll talk about that story as well.
Lawyers submit fresh petitions over 2021 killing of Dumsira. Sterling Law Center has submitted a petition to the Police Service Commission, PSC, calling for the immediate investigation, dismissal, and prosecution of 3 officers of the Nigeria Police Force's Intelligence Response Team over the abduction, unlawful detention, extortion, extrajudicial killing, and cover-up of Mr. Dumsira Edward Leera. Now, here's what you should know about the sad incidents.
Deceased Mr. Leera was unlawfully arrested by ASP David Ameh Agbo and his team, detained for 17 days and released only after 1.5 million naira bribe was paid. It was rearrested in November 2019 after refusing to pay an additional 3 million naira demanded by the same officers, despite taking his car and using it as a personal one.
It was not until 2021, during the National Human Rights Commission's NHRC's post-NSAS panel sitting, that the family was informed he had died in police custody during an unexplained operation. The petition by Sterling Law Center calls for the prosecution and dismissal of 1. ASP David Ameh Agbo, SP Martin Samuel, and DSP Essien E. Edet, the return of the deceased vehicle to the family, and not forgetting to the enforcement of the NHRC panel's recommendation. Well, joining us now is Principal Counsel at Sterling Law Center, Deji Ajare. Deji, good morning and thanks for being here.
Good morning, thanks for having me.
Well, while going through this story, it's rather another sad situation. A case that we've seen way too many times, still reoccurring and happening again. The police officers in whose names you've also mentioned in terms of the press release. And here we are again from 2021 up until now. Can you shed more light on why the story continues this way and why the police, especially looking at the officers, have not been brought to book?
Well, thank you again for having me. You know, it's a sad one, a sad reminder that there's so much to be done, not just in the Nigerian police force, but within the entire accountability mechanisms in the law enforcement agencies in Nigeria. After a judgment of the court of the High Court of River State, the recommendations of the panel of inquiry set up by the National Human Rights Commission, and recall that this panel was set up in the first place as a result of widespread allegations of human rights abuses by members of the Nigerian police force. That was what led to the NSAS protest that we all witnessed, with its consequences. And then one will now wonder that after all of this, we have not learned lessons, because really it is the failure of the accountability mechanisms that led to the protests that we saw, that led to the pent-up anger of the young persons across the country. And now we still have those same issues still surrounding all of still very much existing within the law enforcement agencies in Nigeria. Because where law enforcement officers armed by the Nigerian taxpayers to protect the lives of citizens can simply abduct a person, demand for basically ransom as far as I'm concerned, and when it is not given, extrajudicially execute the citizen, and nothing will happen in terms of accountability. Then it calls to question our commitment, whether we are genuinely committed to accountability for wrongful actions by law enforcement officers. It's been 4 years since 2021, since the recommendations of the National Human Rights Commission. Nothing has been done. But we're hopeful, really. We're hopeful that with the Police Service Commission and the renewed vigor that the new chairman has brought in, that indeed this case will be looked into, and hopefully something will be done about it.
Can you walk us through what the recommendations of the National Human Rights Council were?
Well, the panel set up by the National Human Rights Commission made recommendations, first of which was monetary compensation for the wife, the widow of the deceased, and which was paid. And we must give kudos to the panel and the National Human Rights Commission for that. But you see, beyond that, the panel also made recommendations for the prosecution, investigation and prosecution of these officers. Now, sadly, this has not been implemented. And, that exactly is why the family has not had closure. And it is more worrisome for them when they now cite the vehicle of the deceased being driven by one of these officers around Rivers State. It becomes a really troubling incident, because these were things that happened between the family members and the officers, because the officer said, we will do this, nothing will happen. And indeed, it appears like those threats that they made is exactly what is happening, because nothing is happening to them beyond the monetary compensation paid by the National Human Rights Commission.
Now, Mr. Ajari, is the Nigeria Police High Command aware of this beyond the Nigeria Police Service Commission? And why do we see almost a culture of impunity when it comes to conduct of men and women of the Nigerian police? This is 4 years post-NSAS, and it seems nothing changed.
The Nigerian police is very well aware of this matter from 2019 when it started. Several letters were written to the Inspector Generals of Police, the Complaints Response Units. Let me tell you one interesting thing that happened at about 2021 on this matter. One of the complaints that was forwarded to the Complaints Response Unit was, being treated, and officers from that unit were dispatched to Akwa Ibom State, where Cross River State rather, where the unit that arrested Dumsira was located. And these officers who went to investigate this matter were threatened by these same officers that we're talking about. They threatened to kill them. So they left that place horribly, for the safety of their lives. And in fact, this was reported by the then head of the Complaints Response Unit. He tweeted it. We attached a copy of the tweet to the Police Service Commission. It just tells you, talking about the culture of impunity. Remember, this is within the police force itself. The internal accountability mechanism, the Complaints Response Unit that was supposed to investigate and probably make recommendations to the IG of police was threatened, and they had to run away, and there was nothing they could do about it. It tells you, so you have certain persons within the force who are untouchables. You have certain persons who can do whatever they like, and they will always be protected. That is the lesson one is lesson from this incident. And it is not just that. You also had, even the legal department then too, also sent a team, and then nothing came out from it. So it is really worrisome. It shows you that that culture of impunity is deeply embedded. And as of today, there is not enough that is being done to uproot that culture.
And what are your expectations? You're asking that the NHRC's implementation or suggestion be recommended, or the recommendations rather be implemented. You're asking for financial compensation, and you're asking that the vehicle be returned to his family.
And also the officers should be brought to book.
Right. Do you have faith that all these that you're asking for will be granted?
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is this: the more day we lose total faith in our system, that is the day the system itself ends. I am very hopeful, but I am not naive, and we are relying on public pressure and fully the legal process and the conscience of those who are in authority today, particularly the Police Service Commission and the Attorney General of the Federation, that justice, though may be delayed, but it will not be denied. And we hope that the law will serve its purpose ultimately, and that it will protect those who are weak and do not have a voice. But like I said, the monetary compensation has been awarded and in fact paid to the family. The vehicle, like we said, has not been returned to the family. It is hoped that this will be done. But beyond that, and I think the family, in order to have a proper closure in this case, would like to see those who are behind this very horrible experience of theirs brought to book, and that is in terms of either being prosecuted, investigated and prosecuted as the authorities find deem fit.
Now, Mr. Jared, do you have any information on ASP David Ameh Agbo, ASP Martin Samuel, and DSP Essien Edet? Are they still in service with the Nigerian police force as we speak?
As at the time this statement was released 2 days ago, yes, all three officers are still in the Nigerian police force. In fact, information reaching us is that maybe some, in fact, all of them might have been promoted as at the time this statement was released, which, of course, is basically saying these officers were rewarded for their bad behavior.
Is there any way, or has your law firm reached out to the Inspector General of Police? Does he have this petition in front of him? And is there any communication between the law firm and, of course, the Inspector General of Police?
Yeah, a copy of this petition that was sent to the Police Service Commission itself has been dispatched to the Office of the Inspector General of Police. We still await communication from both the Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police. We are hopeful that this time around, with public pressure, something will be done. Let me also add that a copy was also sent to the Attorney General of the Federation, because we have information that the recommendations of the National Human Rights Commission panel were sent to the Office of the Attorney General, and till date, those recommendations have not, to the best of our knowledge, been implemented.
All right, for the benefit of our viewers, can you break down what really led to the death of the peacemaker himself? There are stories that he was selected to go, bridge peace between two warring factions or so. So can you bring it to the limelight so that we can understand, and the benefit of our viewers especially?
So in summary, what happened in 2019, there were, rival court clashes in the Kano local government in Rivers State, and the chairman of the local government, sought the support of certain persons, of course, with the endorsement of the Commissioner of Police, the DPO, and other stakeholders, to bring the warring factions together, warring parties together, and bring about peace, which was the ultimate desire then. And in order to do this, they had actually reached out to some of those warlords, and quite a number of them were responding. And as part of the process, they went to meet one of these stakeholders who surrendered his arms. And I'm talking about, in the course, a full convoy including the chairman of the local government at that time, including police officers attached to the local government, and other members of the local government, both in the executive and legislative arm. They all went, received these arms, and on their way back in the convoy, they were stopped by these officers of the IGP Intelligence Response Unit. They explained their mission, but These men took them. Remember that these people are in River State, but these men took them to their base in Uyo Cross River State, Uyo Cross River State, where they detained them and eventually released the local government chairman, amongst others, but retained Dumsira curiously. And, after quite a lot of pressure, and then, after they had to pay 1.5 million naira, after 17 days, they released Dumsira, and thereafter, the officers continued to pressure Dumsira and his family members for 3 million naira for them to close the case. They said for them to close the file. Another funny thing. But then, because these people could not afford it, they gave them whatever little token they could afford. But thereafter, after some weeks again, the officers came and rearrested Dumsira. And that was the last time the family members ever saw Dumsira, because they kept him incommunicado despite all their repeated requests to see him, despite the repeated requests of lawyers to see him. They did not have access to him. Eventually, they had to file fundamental rights enforcement suit, in which the court, after hearing them, also, granted their prayers and ordered the immediate release of Dumsira, but this was never complied with. Remember that all of these were communicated to the Inspector General of Police. None of these orders were adhered to. And eventually, after some pressure, they got to find out that some charge was filed against Dumsira in a court. When they went to the court and found the record of the proceedings there, they realized that Dumsira was never produced in that court, and that case itself was struck out for want of diligent prosecution. And yet, the police still did not respond to the family members on the whereabouts or status of Dumsira. It was not until after a lot of other efforts, and then the National Human Rights Commission panel was set up in October, after the NSAS protest in October 2020, that these officers appeared after a lot of pressure as well and threats from the panel. And then they confirmed that Dumsira was killed in custody and that he died during an operation. Now, they never explained how a detainee was killed during an operation that they went out for by some criminals. They never explained the whereabouts of the body of Dumsira. They never explained why they did not release the body to the family. Until date, none of that has been done. And then the panel reached a decision and found against them, found in favor of the family, awarded the compensation. They recommended that these officers should be prosecuted, but till date, nothing has happened with that regard, even though the compensation has been paid to the family. And like I said, while we commend the efforts of the National Human Rights Commission, it is not enough. And the question we ask is this indeed how justice is done? Is this indeed how the family is going to end this matter and know that those who are responsible for the unlawful killing of their son, of their husband, of their father will just go about unpunished?
This is a very, very disheartening tale to hear. And the fact that this is not even fiction, it's the reality of someone whose life ought to have been protected by Nigeria's law enforcement. But the explanations that we're hearing, that you're giving us right now, that the police gave, does not in any way, shape or form make sense. And we're hoping that we can get a clearer picture of what really went down and that justice is served. Even though in situations like this, I would always say that what really is justice? Justice that cannot bring back this life of the person. Is it really justice? I think my final question will be the impact of the state government. Was the state government involved? Were they informed? And did they make any move to ensure that, there was some measure of justice being given to the family?
Well, I'm not aware if the state government was informed during the whole processes that happened before the eventual decision at the National Human Rights Commission. But one thing that is certain is that the Ghana local government, which sought the services of Dumsira itself, was carried along all. In fact, the ultimate petition that was done to the National Human Rights Commission panel was actually emanated from the local government legislative assembly itself. And so they were at least fully aware, and whether the state governor or state government in terms of the state house of assembly was aware, I'm not sure of that. But you see, again, the question one will now ask is this. These are people who were, called upon by officials of government to come and act on behalf of the government, at least of the local government area, to come and, restore peace to the area. And these persons could not even get justice. Imagine the thousands and millions of other Nigerians who do not have this access and yet could still not get justice. So what it tells you is that there is so much that is going on that is unheard, that is unspoken of, because people do not have voices. So it is important that we all commit ourselves to the process of the reforms of our law enforcement agencies, because anybody indeed can be a victim.
It's a really sad story there. We definitely will love to see an update in that regard. We're glad that we could have this opportunity, and we're hoping more media platforms can jump on this conversation as well, so we can create more awareness and put pressure to ensure that there is some measure of closure for the family. It's such a sad place to be, not having this closure and reliving this every time without seeing any positive feedback. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning, DG.
Thank you
much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No.
I mean, for the fact that they didn't find his body, they can't find his body, the cause of death.
I mean, multiple layers.
There's so many loopholes.
And then the officers responsible still driving his car all around the city. It's
like literally putting salt on injury.
Nigeria, there was a president in Georgia when he came in, Meka Saakashvili. Some have recommended that as an antidote to deal with Nigerian police problems. He actually sacked every member of the Georgian police, the president, and then started recruiting, paying them well from afresh. Because it seems the amount of, I know there are bad eggs in every organization, but the Nigerian police has a special, serious reputational problem that they are not ready to confront. Because when you criticize them or you highlight some of these issues, they're very defensive. And I can understand why, but we don't see the sense of urgency, effort. I mean, it was still the same Nigerian police that pulled the trigger and killed Kehinde Alade a few days ago in Ibadan. They really need to do something about their training, orientation, and the entire Nigerian police force is in serious need of reforms and overhaul.
Complete overhaul.
And they need to even change their name. That force is why they are shooting at anything. It's civil. You're meant to protect and serve. It should be Nigerian police services. It's South African police services, Australian police services, New Zealand police services. What's the force? Not everything is criminal minded. Exactly. Not everything is not by force. You see police officers in other crimes, they rescue kittens that are trapped in holes and things like that. People are so scared, they feel they have this sense of agitation when they see these big guns. At every checkpoint you are hissing because you know they are going to waste your time, or you're scared that they might extort you and things like that. We really need to
and it's also,
do something about it.
Punitive measures. We need stronger punitive measures for erring officers. Because if there's an erring officer that gets away with crime, what you're saying invariably is that it's okay to do that. And when they don't see consequences for actions, impunity will abound. And we will keep seeing scenarios like this.
And the VIPs and political class can never understand what ordinary Nigerians are going through, because they have their orderlies, they don't get stopped and harassed at checkpoints. Yeah. They have their own protection, so they won't be able to relate to what ordinary Nigerians are saying. Even the IG cannot, unless it disguises and moves around overtly.
Remember there was a story. There was a story of the former governor of Lagos State. I mean, then I think I was in another media house, and the story came up that he started to move at night. And unbeknownst to the police officers, they were on the road, and he was just behind the car, and they stopped, and they started, come down, do this, do that, until he came down and said, so this is what you people do. And they challenged him, until one of them said, wait, is he go, and he said, so this is what you people go around doing. I remember
we really need more of that.
Yeah, I remember in that media house where I was, and the information came trickling in by one of the essays that this is what the governor does sometimes at night.
So we need a political class.
Maybe they should go around
from that their high horse and go to markets, feel the pulse of ordinary Nigerians, not just on social media, but by putting themselves in a position once in a while, do some of this on the spot assessments.
Yeah.
It's really terrible. It's such a sad story.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Very, very, very sad story. But we'll follow up. We'll bring updates as we proceed, and hopefully the police would respond, especially looking at the fact that the PSC would also look into the situation. The Police Service Commission would highlight the issues and deal with it, especially looking at the fact that the family needs closure. And that's the bottom line of this conversation. And the most important one is that the officers who were involved, would equally be
justice
invited.
Must be served.
Yeah, it must be served. But yesterday, a lot happened in the National Assembly, and we do have our correspondent who will join us. Don't forget, we highlighted some of the issues of the National Assembly. The first one had to do with the fact that certain members felt that the budgeting and the allocation was not coming to the Southeast. That's a good conversation to look into, whether it's in the red or the green chamber. We'll touch on that. And then, not forgetting the APC summit, which also had members of the Assembly gathered together. But let's go on a break. When we come back after the break, our man will join us, Sagir Ibrahim, and we'll also look at the stories from that. Stay with us.
The southeastern part of Nigeria has seemed displeased as representatives have, of course, caused, I wouldn't say it's an uproar, but they've expressed their dissatisfaction with certain allocations within the National Assembly. We'll get a clearer picture about what their dissatisfaction is as we have our National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, who's on standby now to bring us updates. Good morning, Sagir. Can you speak to us about what this dissatisfaction is and, other updates regarding what went down in the House yesterday?
Good morning, Olive. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Benga. Thank you so much for having me this morning. So the concern is the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund, which is the basket fund that houses all of the president's projects, especially around infrastructure, was passed with the 2025 budget. Now, this means that construction development of all sorts is supposed to be going on across all, around the country. And it's captured in the Renewed Hope Development Fund, but then there seem to be, instances where the allocation of these projects to the different parts of the country, the different states, was not done to represent equity. Now, I'm saying this because this is not the first time. I take you back a little bit. We all recall the superhighway project, the coastal road that's going on currently. In the past, a senator from the Northeast had complained, Ibrahim Goje, that in spite of the fact that the project traversed, the superhighway project, I have to correct myself, going from Lagos to the north, he complained that it didn't traverse through the Northeast, and the Northeast did not benefit from that project. Now, yesterday on the floor of the Senate, a lawmaker from the Southeast, Kenneth Eze, was also complaining that there were irrigation projects captured in the Renewed Hope Irrigation, Fund. And for some reason, the Southeast was omitted simply because the Anambra Imo, River Basin Authority was not allocated any funds, zero allocations, and all other regions got. So he shouted it as marginalization, and he was supported by, other lawmakers as well. Why would the Southeast not be captured? Well, the reasons that people might have for this, it may not necessarily be the case, because if you look at the whole instance, the Northwest in the project got around 66 billion, reportedly, from what the lawmaker said, and the Southeast didn't get anything. But another thing that Nigerians need to consider is the fact that the president, as much as he is a public officer, is also an individual and is also, a politician. And likewise, all of the persons who contributed and participated in bringing that fund up. It would interest you to know that during the 2023 election, the Northwest got around 2.6 million votes for the president, or thereabouts. And one wouldn't be surprised if he sees the Northwest get the highest in allocation. And the Southeast got, gave the president around 127,000 votes or thereabouts. Now, this brings into perspective, I'm saying, well, one shouldn't be surprised if he sees issues like this play out. But does this excuse the reason why the Southeast was not captured, in the project? Of course not. In spite of the fact that Nigerians voted the way they did, and I'm not saying this might be the reason why what happened, it's also good to see, a representation of some form of equity. So one is not left to assume that issues like this are what is playing out. So that's what played out, in the Senate during the arguments around the irrigation projects.
Can you shed more light on how it ended? Because it seems like in your report, you had shown other senators, sitting senators, stand up and also chorused what the other senator had said, talking about Honorable Member Osita. But can you share with us how it ended? Did it end, was it conclusive? Are we expecting to hear from the National Assembly again on this matter as well?
Okay, well, what happened was other senators also spoke, especially in favor of the Southeast, but then also considering the fact that not only the Southeast was excluded or marginalized in some form. Remember, I mentioned that the Northeast Senator, Ibrahim Guji, also complained that the Northeast also didn't benefit in some form. So the general conclusion was, I feel this is an omission, and of course this is by the presiding officer, Barot Jibrin, who spoke. He said he feels it's an omission because he doesn't think that there would be any reason why the Southeast will not be captured in the project. So he called for calm. He appealed that they returned back to the Ministry of Water Resources, where these visits are domiciled, and pleaded that they speak with them and come up with an amicable solution to ensure equitable distribution of the projects across the different regions. So the lawmakers all agree to that. The expectation now is that will be done, and then of course on plenary they will deliberate and give updates as to that situation.
Very interesting there. Well, let's see and hope that the update would equally have a package from you, breaking it down just like you've done. But finally, from my end, a lot of persons or many people say it has a political undertone. People read meaning to things, and they've likened it to what happened during the 2023 elections, that it seems like it's a reward process. People who had voted more for the president seem to be in favor, and those who voted less are, in other words, marginalized. How do we balance these insinuations or statements?
You see, this was the reason why I gave the breakdown of the allocation of votes from the different regions. From the Northwest, I don't have all of the figures, but I have that of the Northwest, which is 2.6 million votes. The Northeast is around 2.4 million votes. I think the North Central, around 1.4 or so, thereabout, voted for the president from there. And then the Southeast, 127,000. See, these guys are politicians. And of course, it's obvious, even if, it might not be admitted that the reward system is at play, but we see allocation of roads, we see allocation of resources, and we see, what plays out when all of this happens. So what I can say is, it definitely seems like this is what it is, but one should also consider that Nigerians are Nigerians in spite of the fact that they voted the way that they did. And the expectation is when the government is in play, everybody gets to benefit because it is their right to do so.
Sake Ibrahim, thank you for bringing us updates from the National Assembly. We certainly will reconnect with you again when we have further updates in this regard, but thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has called for stronger collaboration between the Army, other security agencies, and local communities, emphasizing that joint efforts are essential to tackling the country's persistent insecurity. He was speaking at the 2025 first biannual Chief of Army Staff Conference, and Umaru Kirawa brings us more in this report.
From insurgency in the northeast to kidnappings and banditry in the northwest and north central, and separatist unrest in the southeast, Nigeria continues to grapple with complex security challenges. Senior military officers assembled in Maiduguri for the first biannual Chief of Army Staff Conference. Here, they reviewed ongoing operations and developed new strategies to confront the country's evolving security threats.
This pivotal gathering will deliver strategic foresight, operational alignment, and an insight to where military and community engagements converge. during the deliberation of topical issues are going to be to identify areas of improvement and develop practical solutions that will strengthen our effectiveness in safeguarding the nation's space and security.
Oluyede, who presided over the sessions, acknowledged notable gains in the counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency. However, he admitted that emerging threats demand dynamic strategies and continuous reassessment of military operations.
We must not allow these setbacks to dampen our collective spirit or diminish our resolve to stamp out that which seeks to ridicule the sanctity of our country and sovereignty.
The COAS conference provides a platform to evaluate strategy effectiveness, identify operational gaps, and boost readiness, ultimately shaping practical approaches to preserve national peace and security. As deliberations continue, the deployment of technology, regular retraining of personnel, and enhanced multi-sectoral collaboration, particularly in intelligence, remain vital to stabilizing affected communities and advancing socio-economic development. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Great one there from Umaru Kirawa. We'll now go on a break, and when we return, we have more stories to look at. Please stay with us this morning on Breakfast Central.
Welcome back. Factional chairman of the Labour Party, Callistus Okafor, has officially resigned from the party, citing deep-rooted leadership crisis and his disappointment with the party's 2023 presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi. Announcing his resignation in a press conference, Okafor declared that Obi lacks the capacity to govern Nigeria, pointing to his alleged failure to resolve internal conflicts.
The Labour Party has been embroiled in leadership tussles for years, with multiple factions claiming legitimacy. Okafor, who led one of these factions, has now walked away from the party. His resignation comes amid ongoing power struggles between Obi and Julius Abure, the party's embattled national chairman. Okafor certainly did not hold back in his criticism of Obi, accusing him of supporting Abure's leadership despite warnings about alleged financial mismanagement within the party. According to him, Obi's inability to unite the party raises serious doubts about his ability to govern Nigeria effectively. Joining us to react to this development is Labour Party chieftain Abayomi Arabambi. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for having me.
How much of a shock is the resignation of Okafor, and how much of an impact will he have, on the Labour Party?
Well, thank you very much. He has been one of the founding members of the party. I know him very well. But you see, everybody has a mind of his own. When you look at some people who you think, they should be able to have the capacity to, unite the party rather than, coming to find members of discord, you are bound to see this kind of decision been taken, by leaders of the party, because there is a difference between you having someone who comes as a unifier, who comes, as a builder of your party, rather than you now feel disappointed that the person is interested in state capture, party capture, just like the coalition, that is ongoing. So that is just the reason when you have someone you believe, when I had this person, it's going to add value. But at the end of the day, it's even diminishing your own value, it's diminishing its own value, it's diminishing the party value. You might just not want to continue in such a political trajectory, rather for you to just, stay afloat somewhere, maybe you go back to your business until when everything becomes sanitized.
Right. So now that you've spoken to the reason he has left the party, the reason he has given, and your take on that reason, again, the second part of my question was, what impact does this have on the Labour Party? Is this going to be a drastic, or does this signal the drastic collapse of the party's unity? What impact does this have?
No, it's not going to. You see, if even people they can't pay, he has not told us to go to any party. A lot of us, felt actually disappointed, with the way and conduct of most of these people that came to join us in 2022. But as it is, political parties are about individuals, Nigerians. The party is not going to collapse. There is no way the party is going to collapse. They say you are measuring it by, our ability to win presidential election, which nobody can say, because even most of these people, disgruntled elements who are just trying to gather themselves against the current administration, a lot of them were also part of it. They have earned salary. They have earned salary from this present administration. They have earned contract. They have built empire. They have built mansion. But what is happening now? It's just about, as they say, capture. You now see them coming to talk trash, about a government that they have eaten so much, even they vomited, from it, only for them now to now think Nigerians are gullible. They will now gather themselves, most of the political predators, giving Nigeria some funny reasons why an administration must not continue. They need to first of all go and put themselves of everything they have taken, from that government first before they come and tell Nigeria. Because it's not about Nigeria, it's about themselves. They just wanted to take action. So,
Mr. Nnamdi, before we let you go, where is the Labour Party as we speak right now? And are there ongoing efforts towards reconciliation and, bringing all the warring factions together in order to prepare for the charge ahead in 2027?
Yes, of course, there are efforts undergoing, and very soon, you are going to see a very large National Executive Council meeting, of the party, where we are going to make a statement concerning the unity of the party and our, intention, toward 2027 general election. It's not just about, big names. No, it's about ordinary Nigeria. Those are the people that determines the Jonathan fate in 2015. It wasn't about big people. Jonathan had every period of offices, local government, commissioners, many state governors, ministers, director generals, all manner of appointees. But at the end of the day, it was thrown out by Nigeria. So anything could happen in 2027, depending on the ability of Nigeria to trust, certain people in a certain political party. They can decide to give you, their choice of a Nigeria in 2015 and 2027. And peradventure, just like we used to say, if they say, they still want, administration to continue, who are we to query them? Who are we to query them? But we are preparing any moment from now, in the next 1 month, where we are coming out with a NEC meeting, that is now going to set the policy direction for the party. Meanwhile, those that still want to leave, we are still undergoing a lot of re-engineering underneath to let them understand it is not when you capture a party that you can provide dividend of democracy to Nigeria. It is not just you that say, until when I am here, that is when the party will progress. Our answer to that is capital no. All of us must come together. A tree that asks someone to be cutting on the branches, at the end of the day, we will have to, die off. But, when you leave your branches, everybody will find some useful things about the tree to talk about. So that's just the analogy of what is going on in the Labour Party. Everyone that said they have issues, we are telling them they too also have issues. There is no politician that doesn't have issues. Even look at, if you look at HURIWA, he has issue in APC, he jumped ship to another political platform. But the man he put in Kaduna, that was because of that man that he pursued Senator Obasani out of that party. But today, look at Uba. The man as a governor now is not even in good time with him. That is the politics, the dynamics of politics. Sometimes you just close your eyes and think somebody is your enemy. You go and bring somebody else on board, and you never see, the mindset of that person. You just believe within you that, this is the best way for me. Nigerians are the best that will choose who will be their leader at the local government, at the state, at the federal. Right. Not just some individual who has, some large chunk of money to think, they can, dictate for every other person.
Well, the All Progressives Congress have had their summit, and in their summit they have endorsed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not just for the party but for the rest of the country. I guess the Labour Party has its work cut out for it, and we look forward to having a deeper conversation with you sometime next week.
They are jokers. Yeah. They can't endorse him for everybody in Nigeria. They endorse the president for APC as their candidate. You understand?
Which is why I said that the Labour Party does have its work cut out for it in terms of you standing as a viable opposition. And next week we're going to invite you again so we can delve even deeper into this conversation. Thank you, Mr. Abambi, for your time with us this morning.
Thank you. Okay, thank you and good morning.
Good morning. And now let's bring you what's coming up or what's still to come on Breakfast Central. And after that, we'll be bringing you the news.
Thanks for staying with us here on News Central's Breakfast Central. Let's take a look at what stories are making headlines this morning. Let's begin the news with the National Summit of the ruling All Progressives Congress, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu claimed his administration has performed tremendously well since taking office 2 years ago. President Tinubu insists his economic reforms are working despite how tough the impact has been on Nigerians. He pointed at the removal of fuel subsidy as one of the achievements of his administration so far, noting that the decision is irreversible and that the funds have now been channeled towards infrastructure projects, health and education. He added that he is committed to his promise of taking Nigerians out of poverty regardless of the obstacles. The president also dismissed concerns about Nigeria becoming a one-party state, emphasizing that political changes result from free choice, not coercion. He noted that the Constitution guarantees the right to join any party.
Constitutional democracy, don't forget the freedom of movement and the freedom of association is not criminally punishable. Welcome to the progressives. Sweep them clean.
Still staying with the APC has endorsed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the party's sole candidate for the 2027 presidential election. APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje announced this on Thursday during the party's national summit in Abuja. The event was to celebrate the president's second anniversary in office, allowing members of the cabinet to showcase their achievements. Tinubu's policies include the removal of fuel subsidy and the floating of the naira. The nation's currency has been criticized for hurting Nigerians. The APC stalwarts at the event said the president has done well and deserves a second term in office. The endorsement came as a divided opposition struggles to challenge the ruling party. High-profile members of the opposition, including the governor, members of the National Assembly, among others, have defected to the APC. However, the event, Tinubu describes the defections as part of the game and thanked the APC for endorsing him for a second term in office.
The motion, as ably moved by the chairman of Progressive Governors Forum, the governor of Imo State, His Excellency Hope Uzodinma, that this August gathering pass a vote of confidence on our able and amiable.
Let's also tell you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has sworn in the board and management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited 7 weeks after the appointment on April the 2nd. The board's non-executive chairman, Amadu Kida, and NNPCL's Group Chief Executive Officer, Bashir Ojulari, were sworn in at a brief ceremony held at the State House on Thursday afternoon, moments before the president attended National Summit of the All Progressives Congress at the State House Banquet Hall. The 11-member board includes Adidakbo Shegu and Bello Rabiu, representing the Northwest, Yusuf Usman representing the Northeast, and Babs Omotowa, a former managing director of the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas, representing the North Central. Also on the board are Austin Avuru, non-executive director for the South-South, David Ige, representing the Southwest, and Henry Obi, representing the Southeast. Senator Natasha Akpabio is in the news again. This time, the federal government is dragging her to court over alleged defamatory comments she made during a live television broadcast. The suit was filed before a federal Capital Territory High Court on May 16, 2025, with Akpabio as the sole defendant. The government is accusing the senator of making imputation knowing or having reason to believe that such imputation will harm the reputation of a person, citing Section 391 of the Penal Code. The offence is punishable under the Section 392 of the same law. The list of witnesses shows that Godswill Akpabio, Senate President, and Yahaya Bello, former governor of Kogi State, will testify during the trial. The European Union has raised concerns over Nigeria and several other countries for persistent violation of intellectual property rights. In its latest reports, the EU's Trade and Economic Security Commission placed Nigeria in the third tier of its priority watch list, alongside Argentina, Brazil, and Indonesia. Among the EU's top concerns are widespread counterfeiting and the surge in online piracy, which it says undermine European innovation and result in losses worth billions of euros. In 2023 alone, EU customs officials seized counterfeit goods valued at nearly 811 million euros. While Nigeria has made strides with a national IP policy and customs reforms, the EU warns that tangible results remain limited. A major obstacle is the long-delayed Industrial Property Commission bill, first introduced in 2016, but yet to be passed into law. Let's wrap up the news with this final story. The Senate of the Democratic Republic of Congo has voted to lift the immunity of former President Joseph Kabila. The motion passed by 88 votes to 5, clearing the way for potential prosecution of the 53-year-old ex-leader who was accused by the government of backing the M23 rebel group. The militia, which is reportedly supported by Rwanda, has taken control of vast areas in eastern Congo, a region rich in minerals but long afflicted by conflict and instability. The charges against Kabila represent a significant shift in Congolese politics, with growing tensions over alleged foreign interference and escalating rebel violence. Kabila, who governed the country for nearly 20 years, is yet to comment publicly on the Senate's decision.
Le Sénat autorise les poursuites et lève les immunités de M. Joseph Kabila Kabange, sénateur à vie.
Le Congo, cette fois-ci, ne doit pas constituer un sanctuaire de l'impunité. Donc, nous laissons la justice de faire son travail. Nous faisons la promotion de l'état de droit. Donc, personne, je l'ai dit, n'est intouchable dans ce pays.
And that's all we have for you on Breakfast Headlines. We'll take a big break. When we come back, we'll bring to you the front pages of the newspapers. I bet you're wondering what they're saying. Don't forget the phone lines will equally be open, so you can start calling. And let's get your reactions, especially on the front pages. Stay with us.
Welcome to Breakfast Central. We're so excited that you're joining us this morning. And if you're just joining, you're well, you missed a lot, but we have the newspaper front pages for you. We want to ask that you also be a part of the newspapers by calling the numbers on your TV screen to give your comments, thoughts, analysis on any of the stories that we'll be taking this morning. Let's begin the newspaper review this morning with the Punch newspaper. But before we get to the newspapers, let's bring in our correspondent Joshua Imarai this morning.
Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning, Joshua. You've been covering the Nnamdi Kanu case, and we have quite a lot of developments there. I mean, there are talks about the ESN, and also I believe the judge reprimanded one of Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers for the use for his post on social media. Can you bring us up to speed with some of this development?
Well, aside the reprimanding one of Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer, the judge, Justice James Omotosho, actually reprimanded both counsels representing the prosecution and the defense. Now, he was not happy at the pace which the case is running. And according to him, he said Nnamdi Kanu has been in detention for so long and he needs justice as soon as possible. He also factored in the fact that Federal High Court judges will be going for a 2 months vacation. That is to happen in July. And if the case is not conducted and concluded before then, Nnamdi Kanu will still remain in detention. And he's not pleased with that. So he gave both counsels, that's the defense counsel and the prosecution counsel, deadline. For the prosecution counsel, he gave them 6 days to finalize and close their case. And the defense counsel was not left out. He said after completion of the case of the prosecution, the defense counsel has 9 days to conclude its case, or is going to consider the case concluded for them. That aside, he made the witness brought forward by the DSS made some right-breaking statements in court yesterday. He gave a clear comparison comparing ESN and Amotekun. You know, Amotekun is the regional security outfit in the Southwest. ESN is actually the paramilitary arm of the IPOB. Earlier, when Nnamdi Kanu was questioned, he said that the ESN is just a paramilitary arm that is defending their mothers, their sisters, in farmland. Well, the witness came forward in court yesterday and told the court that you cannot compare the ESN and Amotekun. The ESN is illegal because of the entity IPOD, according to what he said, that it has been proscribed. He went forward to compare Amotekun. He said Amotekun had laws backing them from state government as well as state houses of assembly that had given Amotekun backing that you cannot compare the two. Well, that was while the prosecution counsel was leading the witness in a re-examination. Well, one thing that played out in court yesterday was the fact that a flash drive was presented by the defense counsel, and in that flash drive, they had 3 particular videos, one of which the DSS Director General was speaking. The second one was the one of former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General T.Y. Danjuma, and the third one was that of the governor of Imo State, Governor Hope Uzodimma. In the first video, you could hear the DSS Director General saying that communities was the first line of defense, that they should defend themselves, but not grabbing arms without legal authority or legal backing. He went forward to play the second video, that is of T.Y. Danjuma. The one of T.Y. Danjuma was quite ground shaking and earthquaking. Why? Because T.Y. Danjuma actually called on the people that they should take arms and defend themselves. That if you're expecting the police to help you, in his words, and I quote, you will all die. That actually caused quite some echoes in court. And aside that, the video played of the governor of Imo State, that is Governor Hope Uzodimma, some time ago, while making comments on the death of former presidential aide Ahmed Bulak, he actually pinpointed some particular people as those responsible for the killing of Southeast, in Imo State, particularly in Olu. He said that you cannot associate IPOB with the death of these individuals, that for so long they've been experiencing the death of some politicians, that these politicians were APC politicians. He actually fingered the opposition, saying these guys were responsible and not the IPOB. What the defense counsel is trying to use those videos to do is to puncture the case of the prosecution that claimed that after the series of broadcasts that Nnamdi Kanu made, those issues started emerging, those killings started emerging. So that is what the defense counsel was trying to do with those videos yesterday in court.
Wow.
Right.
Very insightful, I must say. Very, very insightful. But permit me to ask, before Olive also throws in a question. In all of this, there was also a statement made yesterday that one of the counsel to Nnamdi Kanu was warned. Can you shed more light on that? They said he was talking on social media. So did you get any information on that?
Yes. That particular counsel is no other person than Aloy Ejimako. Well, Aloy Ejimako was reprimanded concerning some posts he made on social media, which the counsel representing the prosecution, that is the person of Adegboyega Olomo, wrote a letter to Kanu Agabi, that's the lead counsel for Nnamdi Kanu, he complained bitterly that Aloy Ejimakor was making series of inflammatory posts telling Biafrans to rise against the prosecution of Nnamdi Kanu. And he said this would cause further problem for the case and escalate issues. Well, the judge on his own part warned that he doesn't want a social media trial. And the only reason he's giving audiences to people to come into the court is to observe that the proceedings is free, clean, and fair. And he wants an accelerated hearing so Nnamdi Kanu can get justice and be done with. So he actually reprimanded Aloy Ejimakor and told Aloy Ejimakor that this particular act would get him disbarred if it should continue. Well, Kanu Agabi, in his actual manner, begged the court, apologized to the court, and reprimanded, right there in court, reprimanded Aloy Ejimakor for making such posts and warned him of if such issues are going to arise in the future, that is going to be disciplined.
All right, so what are the next steps in this case with Nnamdi Kanu? What should we expect?
Well, we are expecting the prosecution to bring forth more witnesses to substantiate their claim of alleged terrorism. And they have just few days to do that, 6 days. And if they don't do that within that 6 days, their case will be closed automatically, and the defense will open its case and bring forth the evidence, the exhibits, witnesses, and claims they have to prove that Nnamdi Kanu is not guilty of this alleged terrorism act.
This accelerated hearing, I think there's really something to say about it, because this is the quickest we've seen this matter being handled in the years that it's quote unquote been in court. So,
but unfortunately, like Joshua said, the High Court judges are going on recess for 2 months, and it's going to affect the court proceedings.
Anyway,
basically, though it might be accelerated in the eyes of Nigerians, but in the eyes of the judge and his wisdom, he's seeing that it's stalling. I don't know why he said that, because he said it had been on for 3 months, and he actually promised that this was going to be an accelerated hearing. But unfortunately, he has a different opinion as regards to the speed and the pace of the case. So, well, the court is always in its wisdom.
All right. Imai Joshua, thank you for being with us this morning. It's always a delight to have you.
It's a pleasure.
All right, let's now bring you the newspaper front pages. The Daily Independent is our first paper this morning. PDP, others dead. Just empty vessels left behind, says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We saw that yesterday at the APC summit that was held. He says he's optimistic of more defections to APC. Johansson, will you be defecting to the APC?
I don't know what you mean by that, if I would. Okay. I mean, I'm not a politician, so I have no political leanings.
I'm a broadcaster. We're neutral. I have no political leanings. I belong to
everybody and
Nigerian
nobody.
People's Party.
Remember the president who said that I'm for everybody and I'm for nobody.
Nobody. Yeah.
The president still declares that the party didn't force anybody to join them. APC governors, National Assembly leadership endorsed Tinubu for 2027. What we are doing to make Nigeria safer by Ribadu. Tinubu's endorsement sign off on ease within APC according to COP. Nigeria now prime investment.
APC will reply that. Tinubu's endorsement sign off on ease with APC, says COP, and I'm sure APC will respond to that and say, well, that's their cup of tea.
Hey, don't leave me. I see what you're doing there. I see what you did there.
Nigeria now prime investment destination, says Shetima. We would like to see figures. We would like to see some of these companies that are investing in spite of the security challenges and also economic challenges there. But that's good news if we can verify that.
Yes, it will.
Northern Democrats joined forces against Tinubu. What? Tinubu asked NNPCL board to consolidate gains of economic reform. And headsman attack claims 2 soldiers to civilians in Benue. Sad news there.
Really sad.
And good news, depending on which side of the aisle you are, but majority of Nigerians, of course, would want to pay a cheaper PMS price. Dangote refinery reduces PMS price to 875 naira per litre. Okay, that's still very expensive. I long for the days of 65 naira per litre.
Dream on.
Yeah.
Still on the front page of the Daily Independent, we're seeing here, federal government files criminal charges against suspended Senator Natasha. Court admits DSS DG Uzodimma Danjuma videos in Nnamdi Kanu's defense. Defect to APC or resign, Governor Eno tells commissioners and others.
Is he allowed to do that?
Exactly what I was about to ask. Does the governor of a state have a right to determine what political party his commissioners
who appointed the commissioner?
Yeah, exactly. Good question. There is appointees. But if the commissioners they're not compelled to. That's why I gave them the option of resignation. It's not like it's tying
they have a choice
and dragging them to APC secretariat to register. No, they have a choice: resign or join the bandwagon. But what is weird about this arrangement is I've not seen leadership by example. Shouldn't he be the one?
Obviously, he has joined the Baptist, the foreigners.
It's coming. He wants to ensure that he cleans the house first. He will be the one to lock the door.
Okay.
So when everyone leaves the house, in other words, he's telling everybody leave the house so that I can lock the door and we all go together.
So I think this is as good as him, of course, obviously perfecting his defection plans. But before we share our thoughts on that, we have Aruna calling from Lagos. Good morning. Please go ahead with your comments.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Thank you so much. I'm not surprised for this endorsement by the APC governors because, it is you endorse me and endorse you. What else do you expect from them? If you go and endorse people at UOB, definitely they must endorse Tinubu now. And it is very rare. That has not happened since 1999 for the ruling party to go and endorse another candidate. So that is performing or not, they must lie behind him. So that is also so it's not supposed to make the headline at all. It's not supposed to make the headline because it's not true. So that is what I want to say. And it's just unfortunate that this is coming up at this time when we should be talking about governance. When people are dying, hunger, starvation in the land, we are talking about election just 2 years down the line to the administration. Also, we're talking about governance. So they try to roll out their achievements. But this thing is, they are just trying to sway Nigerian mind from the issue on ground of poverty, hunger, and what have you. So I think it's between Nigeria and the choice is not left for Nigeria to make. For Nigeria to either queue behind these governors and the lawmakers or to make their choice. And as for Akpabio State Governor, I don't think it's good for him to force everyone to join him. If you want to go to APC, let him go. If others say no, we don't want. If I'm in the cabinet and I don't want to join him, I'll resign. Not by force to wear the same shoe.
He said it's disloyalty. He said it's disloyalty. Thank you very much for joining. Haruna, thank you for joining us this morning. The governor told them it's disloyalty. He said he has no problem with elected officials. He's not going to have to, he can't mandate them. But for the ones that were appointed, that anyone who says that they don't know that he's defecting, they're living in the 18th century. So that they already know he's defecting and he wants them to come with him. So he's giving them notice to either defect with him or they resign.
I mean, he's the head of the government in his state. He's the daddy and of the family. So if daddy makes a decision, who are you as the children?
I mean, he has the support of the granddaddy as well, being the person of Senator Godswill Akpabio, who is also a staunch APC member. So it just looks like all of this again
when
is
it happening? Or maybe he's waiting for a timing where it will be done in grand celebratory style. By the way, that's Johansson's home state.
Yes, it is. In fact, Johansson's governor was quoted to have said, it's a huge win for the APC.
I love that. They should be writing it in the newspaper. Johansson's governor.
Yeah. It's a huge win for the APC in Akwa Ibom, and they signed that the state is ready to align with the national leadership. Again, this is the same.
They want to connect to the central nervous system.
The same thing that we had Delta State saying. Whenever they are moving to the APC, what's the excuse? We're able to benefit more by being in alignment with the center. This again is why Nigerians haven't been too excited.
We're waiting for the rally. Remember Governor Sheriff's rally, your home state too In Delta State,
We're doing that now,
it was
I see.
celebratory. And maybe we'll send Johansson. You know, Johansson was in Port Harcourt recently. We'll send him there to cover the event in Akwa Ibom State.
All right, let's get to hear from Abdul calling from Lagos. Good morning, Abdul. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning, my dear sister. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for asking.
Okay, how are you?
They're asking how you both are.
We're good. We're great. Thank you so much, Abdul. How are you, by the way?
I'm fine as well.
All right, go ahead.
We are talking about the country. The so-called calling APC party call themselves change, and we are not seeing anything change. We are not seeing anything change. I'm not a politician, neither. I'm in any party. But what they call themselves is change. And we are not saying anything change, so we should change them as well. We should rather think of changing them as well. They come and change some people. They also need to be changed so we have a good governance. The country needs a good governance. We need a good leader that can lead us well. I'm a first-time caller. Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you
for your
thoughts
point.
on that.
I mean, this change argument, it depends on what perspective you're seeing it from. We saw the overwhelming majority of members at the banquet hall of the presidential villa in Abuja yesterday, you know, high-fiving themselves. We've done a fantastic job. We endorse you for the next 2 years. And I think Senator Akpabio even went as far as saying 2031 and beyond. So the APC haven't looked at what they've done, their 2-year assessment. They've given themselves a 100% yeoman's job. They feel they've done a fantastic job. So it's left for the jury's out on Nigerians to decide that the polling units.
Before we even get to the polling unit, 29th of May is next week, and we're going to have the opportunity to review the half term, like you said, first 2 years of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in office. Because, like I did say at the beginning of the show, you can't set the exam, you can't be the examiner and then students at the same time. Nigerian government have been employed by the Nigerian citizens to serve in their interests. So it is the Nigerian student, the Nigerian people, who will be the one to mark the score sheet and tell the government whether they're working or not. So let's take a call from Lokoja. We have Abdul Karim. Good morning. Please go ahead. Good morning.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed this program.
Thank you.
I'm happy I enjoyed this morning. The issue of defecting is not to become Nigerian. What we want is government. In Nigeria, as of today, since 2015, that APC come to power. I'm not a politician, but what Nigeria is passing through, what I see in APC is like a nightclub. If you don't have money, you can't do it. So other people that they camp, the camp did not mean anything to Nigeria. To be sincere. Because they don't know what is going on in the market. They only had with the camp from PDP to APC, from SDP to APC. No, they are using their own selfish interest, not the interest of this country. Look at what is happening in National Assembly. They want to enact a law to by force Nigeria to vote, but they cannot enact a law that can make INEC, make her not compulsory to. In fact, this country, what we are passing through, is no more than what Burkina Faso is passing through before the military took over there. Because this is not democracy. It's not democracy. In APC, you see that they done the election, they do election. Look at what's happening in Kogi State. Helicopter, they are shooting from helicopter. The day of election, killing people. They call it democracy. What kind of democracy are we practicing? It's not easy to rubbish. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning, Abdul Karim. You know, again, like I did say, these are the Nigerian people that will be the ones to mark the score sheet. of the current administration. It's not APC that will tell us at the APC summit that they're working. It is Nigerians that will say...
You can't set your exams and like you rightly
Exactly.
said,
It's Nigerians that will say, okay, you've done this and you've done that. We felt the impact, and this is how we feel about your administration. Let's go to another paper. We have the Daily Trust
I also wanted to
paper.
touch on that before you go to the next paper. What I wanted to say was, we've taken 2 calls now. 2 calls. 2 different locations. 2 different states, right? Their summation doesn't seem like they agree.
It doesn't align
with what
with what we
happened
saw
exactly
in Abuja,
at the
yes.
APC summit. And this goes back to the statement that was made by the Senate President, where he said Nigerians, have supported the president to run for a 2nd term. So this is where we beg, but in context, sometimes when we say Nigerians, in other words, we are saying every single person. We are neutral here on this set.
I mean,
and we're leaving the people to talk.
It's show
Yeah, I agree.
it's
I
like
agree.
boxing. Yeah,
I'm just highlighting it again. That you do have it. We get like a litmus test. We've talked about it in the morning when we started the show, and now we're having a real test, a real litmus test, where callers are calling. We
it's
don't
like a poll.
And yes, so they're going on to express how they feel and what they think. So 2 down. Hopefully, keep calling. We do have some few more minutes to go on the show.
I want to take another story that I think that is very important, and I think should be a big topic of conversation even for us next week. Nigeria has topped the accident charts, accidents death chart in Africa, and what that means is that Nigeria now has the highest number of people who have died by accidents in Africa. Let's look at the Daily Trust as they break down these numbers for us. This is some form of drawing board they've done this morning.
Absolutely.
Now, breakdown of Nigerians killed in road crashes in the first quarter of 2025. Total number of road crashes in 2025, we had 2,650. Now, in 2024, there was 2,674, so there was a 0.9 decrease from last year. In the total number of people killed in road crashes, we had 1,593 so far in 2025. We're just in the 5th month.
Just in the, yes.
And we have 1,593 already killed from road crashes, an increase from 1,471, which was the total number in 2024. And we've not even gotten to the half of the year. Total number of people injured in 2025 so far, 9,298, a 7.4 increase from Q1 2024. And in 2024, what we're seeing is 8,659 in Q1 2024. Timeline of fatal road crashes: in January 10th, we had 9 deaths and 11 injured in Kaduna. January 11th, 19 deaths and 21 injured in Plateau. January 22, 18 deaths in Kwara. February 1st, 30 passengers burned to death in Lagos. February 14, 23 deaths and 48 injured in Kano. February 17, 6 deaths and 48 injured in Kogi. And we're seeing here buses, trucks, trailers behind fatal road crashes. In a country that still struggles with collation of data because some of the stories are underreported. So imagine what the actual numbers we reveal. People are dying on our roads.
And these are very avoidable deaths.
Very avoidable.
Unfortunately.
And it's basic things. Every day, every week, Benga is highlighting how, for example, Lagos is dark, how we don't have traffic lights. These are factors that influence the rate of accidents. The other day, when it had just rained, and I was trying to pass the back in that Ikate axis, that back.
This is Lekki in Lagos.
Yes, Lekki in Lagos. I was trying to pass through the back because I was trying to avoid the traffic on the express, and that was the worst mistake I made, because you can't be driving a salon car and passing through those places. The potholes. My car kept going into huge ditches.
So imagine when it rains.
It had just rained, and we're going now fully into the rainy season. No, I could see, but
they're really bad. That's the level of potholes. They're now craters because some of them are huge. A friend of mine lost 2 tires on Sunday, just after the toll gate on the Lekki Epe, just by Oriental Hotel. I mean, whose day would that go on? I've lost 2 tires I think it was last year. On Ozumba, just after
me too. I lost 1
because of potholes.
You know what?
It's really sad Do you know how much Lagos is generating in terms of internal generated revenue? And we're talking of Victoria Island, high-brow Victoria Island, Lagos. We're talking of Lekki. We're not. So, what do you expect the people at Ajangbadi to complain about if in the most developed urban areas of Lagos? It's really sad, and it's still in the dark. Lagos is still in the dark.
You know what annoys the most is they talk of roadworthiness. You must have roadworthiness.
Exactly.
Are you not seeing what they're saying here?
Is the road worthy
of the car?
Because you pay for roadworthiness, you go there, you do the checkup, your car is good, but the road
is destroying shock absorbers, tires are lost on a daily basis.
We're spending so much money to maintain our cars.
And it seems no
one is doing anything about it. But just to even still go again and read that rider that says buses, trucks, trailers behind fatal road crashes.
Yes.
You with your regular car, you're driving, they will stop you. Then you see one bus that looks like it's about to fall.
No
with only three
headlights.
They will let the bus pass.
No headlights.
So there are many people that are to be implicated.
A lot.
Even the road safety officials, FRSC has a huge role to play in this.
I also want to ask, what does the Lagos State House of Assembly discuss? What do they discuss?
I mean, since Obasa and Miranda, we've not heard anything. It's just total silence. Why did people elect them if they can't do the bidding of the people?
What do they talk about on a daily session? What do you talk about? You did a fantastic report on lighting in Lagos, how dark Lagos is. Have they sat down to say, okay, you know what? Let's light up Lagos during the time of Governor Fashola did. Let's light up Lagos. Let's do this, and then we see it in action. But it's as if, do they sit down? Do they really have?
I really don't know. Understand? Do they even use these roads? Do they move around?
Yes, they do.
Well, they do, but because they have
sirens and all that.
Beyond that, their cars are usually like the really high-end cars.
You know the problem with Nigeria.
SUVs. You know so they don't feel the impact.
You know the problem with Nigeria.
When
if the road is bad, they say buy a Jeep.
To be able
don't fix the road.
Exactly. Everybody's looking for how to circumvent what the issues are and fixing them.
You push them to adapt. The wall, they break
We're
the
always
wall,
trying to adapt.
Moving.
And that's a valid one, because the main reason I wanted to buy an SUV for the longest time, I kept saying the rains are coming, staying on the island with a long car is not a good idea, because the other time I remember coming to work, was it last year or 2 years ago, the whole of my bumper pulled because of the flood. And this is our reality in Nigeria.
And that money for SUV could do other things.
Exactly.
And I still don't even have the money for the SUV.
Well, Joe, after the show,
let's talk. Let's
do one or two for our younger sister.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I need help.
Even if it's a little korope to move you around.
Thank you.
You know the cheapest, they say buy Nigeria, use Nigeria.
Yes.
The cheapest innocent.
How much?
Is 22 million.
Wow.
We're going to do it. You know what? We're going to do a drawing board on that.
Please.
Because by the time you break it down, how much will a civil servant save so as to be able to afford even a tokumbo now? These are the issues, Benga.
Exactly.
Olive. These are the issues that you expect that you sit down and look into. But then again, while we maintain our neutrality, but remember that as a fourth realm, we would ask the right questions and key questions. Hence why it may not sound palatable to those in power. And the question is, like we asked the member, do you think all these issues can be solved in 2 years? Because they keep highlighting, don't worry, in 2 years,
we start enjoying it.
We had the Lagos State Commission of Information here.
Yes.
And when we highlighted some of these issues, it was honest enough, especially on the street lights issue, that, okay, we're aware of this, we apologize, we'll do something. But, I mean, you're 6 years into the Sanwo-Olu administration. How long will it take to do this?
There's solar-powered street lights. We heard the Chinese...
I mean, look at Third Mainland Bridge, for example.
There was supposed to be an agreement with the Chinese company to light up solar-powered. You don't need... there were issues where... I mean, I can understand the former Lagos state governors who said they had put street lights and then area boys and so on, street urchins will go and disconnect and steal some of the... Okay, now they're solar powered. And therefore you could even move... I always say, a friend of mine would say, instead of putting the connecting port, the panel where you could open with the key and try to fix if there's any issue, why don't you get the ones that they're up? Let's see the area boy that will climb up to the... I mean, there are ways.
Exactly.
It's just
really sad.
To whom much is given, much is expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Just
Friday,
to finally wrap up the stories here, there's one, despite 6-time price cuts by Dangote, petrol costs still high.
Yes.
And I think that that's important because every other day we're hearing that they removed 15 naira.
It's not till they go back,
15 naira. They just removed 15 naira.
Exactly, but we're not feeling it. I'll still go and buy at 890.
But it's
875,
expensive as a
890.
result of the exchange rates also. I mean, if the naira was still under 1,000, it would.
As we wrap up, I
reflect.
want to ask a question, even to you Nigerians watching the show, and this question is personal. The question is, what if there was no Dangote refinery?
Okay. They will answer the question by
Just
tweeting at
imagine it.
News Central TV or, tweeting at us individually. But thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. We'll be back again on Monday.
Podcast.
I said this week's broadcast.
Oh, okay, broadcast.
How will I say podcast?
Okay.
We'll be back again on Monday. We hope you have a wonderful week. I am Olive Emodi.
And I'm Bengabo, and I'm so glad petrol is widely available now, because some of those petroleum attendants, they feel like
They are
kings.
like
They're on
next
top of the
best
world.
in after fried rice.
Exactly. So,
No.
It's Friday. Don't worry, we're lightening things up. I'm Joe Hansen. Don't forget to join Mazino and Judith tomorrow for Breakfast Extra, the weekend special edition of The Breakfast Show, Saturday and Sunday. They'll be here, and I'm sure they will follow through with some of these very important conversations. But thanks for watching, by the way. We'll see you again
we'll
on
miss you. See you guys on Monday.
Yeah.
Peace out. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.